food stamps, you get a pre-selected box of meat, bread, rice, food staples, and fruits and vegetables. No more handing you a debit card filled with other people's cash for you to go load up on Oreos. The goal here is to keep you from starving because taxpayers do not need to bankroll your junk food pantry or your health problems.
I know that part of the appeal of being a conservative content creator is the fact that it doesn't really require you to be clever or creative or intelligent or well-researched in any way. But even by the standard that y'all have set over on your side of the aisle, this take is pathetically ignorant and lazy for multiple reasons, not least of which is the fact that conservatives have already attempted this exact idea multiple times, and it has failed spectacularly every single time. Starting in the late 70s, it was the USDA's Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations, or FDPIR, where they shipped culturally inappropriate processed food items to reservations across the country. Then in the 80s, it was Reagan's government cheese. And then in 2019, it was Dear Leader's American Harvest box, which had to be canceled after they realized that the administrative cost of shipping boxes of shitty non-perishable food is, surprise, exponentially more expensive than the administrative cost of food stamps. So we already know that food boxes are, one, way more costly, and two, way less effective at addressing food insecurity for the many diverse populations that make up our country. In other words, you are literally advocating for wasting more money to accomplish less for the sole purpose of that tingly feeling it gives you downstairs when you get to torture poor people. And personally, lady, I don't want my tax dollars to subsidize your kinks. But on top of all of that, your take is also incredibly ignorant of the actual structural barriers that low-income Americans face around food. And I want to talk about what those barriers are, so thanks for the opportunity to do that. For context, I previously ran digital communication for Medicaid in the state of Oklahoma, and obviously Medicaid and food stamps often serve the same people. And one of the projects that I helped develop while at Medicaid was a series of cooking videos filmed with professional chefs who were given a $40 budget and a strict set of guidelines and asked to create a family meal that the average Medicaid recipient could make for their own families. And without fail, every single one of those professional chefs talked about how hard it was for them to come up with a recipe that they could make within those constraints. Constraints which, again, were specifically designed to mimic the barriers that low-income Americans face in their own lives every single day. Barriers that you are refusing to even acknowledge. So here's the reality. Transforming a box of basic pantry staples like dried beans and flour into something edible requires a lot of structural support that most people take for granted in our own lives. For example, when the state of Massachusetts launched its Project Bread program to combat food insecurity, 82% of the participants had to request basic kitchen supplies like pots, pans, and cooking utensils in order to actually prepare the food they were given because they didn't have any of it already. 40 of the participants straight up did not have refrigerators, and some of them had been living without a fridge for years. Countless others technically had access to a fridge, but they functioned too poorly to actually store perishable items. And many of those participants were afraid to ask their landlords for a replacement out of fear that their rent would be raised or they would be evicted. Fears that, frankly, probably weren't all that unfounded in this country. So when conservatives say, just give them ingredients, what they really mean is, let's make poor people's lives harder so that we can feel morally superior. Because none of this is actually about nutrition for them. If it were actually about nutrition, they wouldn't shrug their shoulders or outright cheer at the news that hundreds of thousands of American families, including lots of children, are about to lose access to food stamps. If it were actually about nutrition and wanting people to eat healthy and be healthy, conservatives would be spending their time right now calling their elected officials to demand that food stamps go out on November 1st instead of making dumb videos like this. Because the only thing less healthy than eating junk food like you're so worried about is eating nothing at all. And yet, these so-called champions of nutritional health seem practically delighted at the idea that so many low-income Americans will go hungry this November. But you can't have it both ways, lady. You can't claim that you just want someone to be healthy while also saying that you want them to go hungry. It doesn't work that way. So spare us the moralizing about how you just want food stamp recipients to make healthy choices. No, the you don't. You want folks to not be poor, and if they can't magically pull that off immediately, you'll settle for having them be dead instead.